welcome. I am Avian Parks. Now, Tobago is getting ready for the construction of a new passenger terminal building and supporting infrastructure for the A.N.R. Robinson International Airport. So today we're going to be chatting a bit about that, and I have 4 gentlemen on set with me who will provide us with loads of information about this project that is coming and due to take place in Tobago very soon. We have Mr. Ray Sandy, Chief Administrator of the Tobago House of Assembly. We have Mr. Alvin Pascal, Legal Counsel for the Tobago House of Assembly. We have Mr. Patrick Drakes, Consultant on the project. And we also have Mr. Hayden Newton, General Manager of the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I feel a little bit intimidated by all of you, but I'm sure we're going to be fine. Now, the Tobago House of Assembly will actually be leading the land acquisition aspect of the project, but the Airports Authority is the executing agency of the entire project. So I'm going to start off with you, Mr. Newton, as the General Manager of the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, and of course the executing agency. Why is it important at this point in time to do any sort of upgrading works on the existing international airport at Crown Point?
Ms. Marks, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the session, first of all. And I would like to say that airport developments are very important to any country. The facilities at A.N.R. Robinson is in need of some development. In order to improve the facilities and the airlift into the island, we need to ensure that what we have at A.N.R. Robinson is capable to meet the requirements. We have had challenges coming from the customers indicating that the current facilities are not what it should be. And we as the airport operator, the Airports Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, recognize that. So certainly at this point in time, if not now, when? We feel that it's timely. We feel that, in fact, if you look at what is happening in our broader Caribbean islands, they have ensured that they've spent some time in terms of developing the airport facilities because it's a critical catalyst to economic development of the islands. Tobago is no different. So the Airports Authority is stand ready to assist to ensure that we're able to develop the facilities to meet the requirements of the users of the facilities.
Okay, so by now most persons know that the actual location is going to be shifted a little further up in the Bonaccord area. Some persons might be asking, why move? Why not just expand on the existing terminal?
There are significant challenges with respect to the space where the existing terminal is. An airport is and the airport business, I need to explain, is it's a global business. So we have certain requirements under the International Civil Aviation Organization where we have to ensure that the facilities are compliant. Given the challenges at A.N.R. Robinson, we need to make changes. The reason that we are suggesting that we need to move, and I want to make the important point that the existing terminal is still going to be used. The intention is to perhaps operate as in Trinidad and Tobago, having a north and south terminal. Here we'll have an east and a west terminal. The west terminal, where the current facilities are right now, is going to be used for things such as your general aviation and your cargo and your executive jet centers. So there is, in fact, some method and strategy to what we are doing. The east terminal, which is going to be the major domestic and international terminal, it's going to allow us to ensure that we are able to develop the facilities along the Storbay local road to ensure that we are able to take into consideration for the next 30 years, we need to ensure that Tobago is able to meet the requirements of the international passengers and the domestic passengers. So that really is the strategy behind moving the terminal to east of the current facilities.
Mr. Drakes, let me allow you to jump in here as consultant on the project. Why do you think the existing location is suitable for this new works that we expect to see happening very soon?
Well, first of all, an exercise was done over a period of months, and that exercise really sought to find what is the best location ideally. Those are governed by guidelines and, as Mr. Newton mentioned, the ICAO regulations. Now, in applying those regulations, we recognize that there are compliance issues. And when you take into consideration what is expected, at least as a minimum, you recognize that doing anything to the existing facilities would still not meet compliance. So in setting out to achieve compliance, that is where we started to do GIS mapping, do a desktop study, and that indicated basically where lands are available. Now, we also looked at it from topography, and from the topography issues, where is the least intrusive in terms of doing any sort of development works. That area that we identified around 6,000 feet down the runway, or 2/3 down the existing runway, is the perfect place in terms of levels, and so that would allow the least development cost. So it was largely from that standpoint that we identify that as a place to site the new passenger terminal and all the ancillary facilities for it.
Now, at the initial stakeholders meeting, you would
Yes.
have given a presentation in terms of what persons can expect and
Yes.
different things. What kinds of considerations were taken in terms of designing the airport? I know
Right.
some persons are concerned about something as simple as boarding bridges.
Yes.
Has that been taken into consideration? Would persons still have to be walking in the rain or, out
Okay.
in the sun?
Well, it's an opportunity now. When you're dealing with a new facility, it's not for now, it's for 30, 40, 50 years down the road. And a lifeline facility is really what this is going to be. So when you're planning a lifeline facility, you have to take into consideration all aspects of the design. So yes, we did consider passengers, we did consider level of service, we took into consideration access and egress from the airport. When you take all of those things into consideration, then you now look at the operational aspects. The operational aspects are also contingent on feedback, international travel trends. So you have the opportunity now to incorporate all these trends and where aviation is going for a modern facility. Coming with that are passenger boarding bridges. But it's a very strange situation we found ourselves in. Most international passengers traveling, coming to the Caribbean, leaving a cold country, don't want to come out in a passenger boarding bridge where it's cold. They would like to experience the sun and so on. So we have those challenges. The fact is, the new facility will have to accommodate the new long-range aircraft, as well as the domestic side where we have the smaller aircraft. That too will be served with passenger boarding bridges, but in a type that is retractable, so in the rainy season you do not experience the wetting. All right? So it is flexible. The entire facility is done with that flexibility in mind.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Sandy, let me just come to you as Chief Administrator of the Tobago House of Assembly, and of course that's the THA, is the governing body on the island. We're talking about a new airport for Tobago, and we've probably been hearing that since I was in school, which might not be too long ago, but why now? Why do we need a new airport now? Why now?
Well, that's a good question. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, which includes the Tobago House of Assembly, has indicated that there's need for diversification of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. And in that diversification, Tobago has to make a greater contribution to national development. And Tobago has a competitive advantage as far as tourism is concerned. And as such, Tobago is basically chosen to lead the tourism trust in that new diversification exercise. The development of the A.N.R. Robinson International Airport terminal is critical to improvement or growth of the tourism industry in Tobago and by extension in Trinidad and Tobago. You know, in 1997, Burke Hillman did a study, and since then we have been toying with the idea of a new terminal building. There were various sites being chosen and all of that, but we have identified and we have selected the site that we think is most, that we are most comfortable with in terms of the location of the new terminal building. Since 1997, very little had been done except some cosmetic improvements to the existing terminal building. You know, and if the Tobago House of Assembly is to continue to provide the environment for development and to foster the growth in the private sector and so on, there's need for a new terminal building at A.N.R. Robinson International Airport. And if not now, when?
So the time is right.
Definitely.
Mr. Pascal, I wouldn't go to you just yet. I want to touch on the land acquisition, but you know, Mr. Sandy's mentioning about the expansion of tourism and so on. Mr. Newton, let me come back to you. As Airports Authority Manager, how do you see airports contributing to our country's overall economy? Apart from tourism, that might be one, you know, aspect. In your studies, in your travels, how do you see it as an overall component?
I could point to the International Civil Aviation Organization studies and also Airport Council International studies about the importance of airports as catalysts for economic development in countries. I could point to examples internationally where, in fact, the airports are so critical to the function. For instance, Singapore Changi's airport. The development that takes place there in that airport is critical to the development of that island. But we have seen in Trinidad and Tobago that aviation and airport developments have contributed to the gross national products and gross domestic products. We have done studies at the Airports Authority that in fact has quantified the contribution, because we're talking about not only in terms of direct employment on the facilities, but also indirect employment. We're talking about foreign exchange generation. We're talking about ensuring that the local business community is able to develop. So it is our perspective, and we have seen it at Piarco, even with the challenges in Piarco. And that's one of the things. And we want to make sure in terms of the development of facilities in Tobago that we don't repeat the mistakes that we have in Piarco. All right? And that's why the Airports Authority has ensured that we were able at this time to work with the Tobago House of Assembly to try to ensure we are able to guide and assist in the process. We believe that we have developed the expertise in terms of aviation management. We have benchmarked about what is happening outside in terms of the airport business. So we are not just talking as somebody who doesn't have the expertise or don't have the metrics behind what we are saying. And it is our considered opinion that the development of this airport will be critical to the development of this island.
So we can see Tobagonians benefiting
directly,
far and wide, directly from this project.
That is our perspective.
Mr. Sandy, just going back to you, because of course the land acquisition for the airport, that is a huge aspect of the project, and the THA is leading that. How does the THA intend to deal with the whole issue of compulsory acquisition?
Well, let me start by using a layman's definition of what compulsory acquisition is. It's really an instrument available to the government to acquire lands, privately owned lands, for a public purpose. And clearly the construction of a terminal building is a public purpose. So we have that instrument available to us. But the way we're going to treat with it is that we are first going to enter into private treaty arrangements with landowners in the area. We have identified about 84 acres of land that would be needed for this project. And the last count, I think, it was about 120 persons who own those 84 acres of land. So the method we're going to use is we're going to enter into private treaty arrangement with those individuals, hoping that we can come to some kind of agreement. Only if we don't come to some kind of agreement, then we'd have to use the compulsory acquisition instrument that is available to the state. So we have identified compensation as a critical issue for the owners of those lands. And the compensation can take many forms. We have identified that the Tobago House of Assembly owns approximately 300 acres of land in the general vicinity of Shervan, Cove, and so on. So we are offering those lands as part of the compensation package. So one can accept land in exchange for your property. We have identified the properties, well, not the properties, the landowners, they might have varying interests. We have commercial interests, we have interest in land only, and we have interest in terms of persons who live there. They reside in the area, so they have land and residences. So we are proposing land as a way of compensation, money of course, and also a mixture of both. And in the case of, there might be a few limited cases where we might be able to offer state housing if it's available for those persons who own, who reside in the area. So we have a variety of options that we can use, and we are really hopeful that we can meet with the individuals down there in those areas that are due for acquisition, and really come up with a compensation package that is suitable on both sides. One that is fair and one that is reasonable. And our expectation is that the state, well, not our expectation, the central government has committed to providing us with the resources to compensate persons for the lands that we are about to acquire.
And that was my next question, because of course, you know, from the meetings, from the stakeholder meetings, that was the primary concern. You know, does the government have the money to compensate them? So you are giving the assurance that the state will provide the finances for the compensation.
Yes, I'm giving that assurance.
Gentlemen, we have to go to a short break. Viewers, stay with us. We're going to go to a short break, but we will continue the conversation on the new passenger terminal building to be constructed at the A.N.R. Robinson International Airport. Welcome back, viewers. You're watching an interview, a panel discussion on the construction of the new passenger terminal building to take place at the A.N.R. Robinson International Airport right here in Tobago. And I'm currently chatting with persons from the Tobago House of Assembly and also from the Airports Authority. And of course, we have the consultant on the project here as well. Let me just continue with you, Mr. Pascal. The land acquisition aspect of the project, we've already established that the Tobago House of Assembly will be leading that aspect of the project, whilst the Airports Authority is the executing agency of the entire project. We have a history of land title issues in Tobago. How does the THA intend to deal with that?
Yes, the THA is well aware of persons who may not have formal titles. As such, we have agreed that all persons in possession will be treated as owners and be dealt with as owners for compensation under the Land Acquisition Act.
Tell us a bit about the process of compulsory acquisition.
Yeah. Compulsory acquisition is a process used in Trinidad and Tobago when a public body requires land for a public purpose. The process of that is that the land is identified. The acquiring authority, most likely the Ministry of Agriculture, the Chief State Solicitors, and the Director of Surveys, they prepare certain briefs, and when that briefs get to the Minister via Cabinet note, he certifies that the land is needed for public purpose. Once you have that, certain notices are placed in the Gazette and in the newspaper. That means to say that a compulsory acquisition is in process. Once you have that compulsory order, yes, there's a Section 3 of the Land Acquisition Act that gives the acquiring authority, or that gives the public body, the right to enter onto the lands. Once you enter onto the lands, you go there for a purpose. That purpose is to survey, or as the case might be. Soon after that Section 3 notice is there, you have a Section 4 notice, which is virtually saying that you have acquired it, that the state have acquired the lands. You could go on to a Section 5 notice where those lands are then vested in the state. And within that period, compensation must be paid.
Now, Mr. Pascal has just taken us through the legal aspect of it. But of course, we are dealing with human beings, some of whom are in their homes. And this is where I want to just bring in Mr. Sandy as leader of the THA, Chief Administrator, and Mr. Newton. How can these stakeholders be comfortable that this process is going to be carried out properly?
As I said earlier, we are going to enter into private treaty arrangements at first with the landowners in the area. And in other words, you're going to deal with you individually. We're going to look at your individual circumstance, and hopefully we can come to some agreement as to the value. Of course, we have valuators working with us, And as we indicated in the public meetings, individuals can also do their own private valuation using qualified valuators. And then we will enter into some form of negotiation with those land owners or house owners or occupiers of those lands. And once you have agreement, then it means that we shake hands and we walk away in terms of the government is satisfied that, that we have compensated you adequately, you are satisfied with the compensation that we are offering to you. And once that happens, then we go to the next stage of getting your check ready, if it's a check, or the next stage of identifying the parcel of land that you wish to exchange for your property and so on. That process, I mean, I'm trying to simplify it here, but that process can take some time. But we expect that the entire process would be completed in accordance with the plan that we have for the construction of that airport terminal.
And Mr. Newton.
Just to concur, the Airports Authority is working with the THA to ensure that this process is done in a humane way. Because as human beings, we are dealing with people who have lived on these lands for a number of years. We understand the importance of the public purpose, but we also want to ensure that we deal with the fact that we are dealing with human beings and their lives will be affected by this.
And Mr. Newton, you know, as you're chatting, I'm just thinking about what you said earlier in terms of the different possibilities and prospects for a new airport. But I somehow felt we didn't hear enough about the cargo prospects. Now, you did mention the existing airport will be more geared towards cargo. But what kind of possibilities do you see happening there?
Okay. We have done some work at the Airports Authority in terms of the cargo development that is possible in that space. Tobago is ideally suited to deal with not only cargo for Tobago itself, but also for Latin America. We have seen some work coming out in some of the studies that we have done, which have indicated that we could in fact utilize those facilities to develop, together with what is happening in Piarco, an initiative where we could look at cargo development into Latin America from that space. So this cargo, and I really want to reiterate how important it is, because we are seeing not only in terms of improving the cargo business in Tobago itself, perhaps taking away some of the challenges associated with the sea bridge, but also ensuring that we could look at an internationalization of this cargo business. So we actually feel that there's significant potential. We have quantified it, and we feel that we could go and get it.
So, Mr. Sandy, just going back to you, now, one of the things that came up in the stakeholder meetings at the Ravenels Resort was the fact that persons had lands acquired in the past for airport expansion, but were not paid. How does the THA intend to deal with that?
Yes, we have recognized that as a significant issue, and we will treat with it. We are planning to meet with all such persons, and in meeting with them, we'll be able to indicate where they are in the process. We have some information from the Commission of State Land that suggests that a number of persons were not paid simply because they did not submit a claim for payment. We had some persons who are claiming that they weren't paid, and the records show that they were fully paid. So we are going to treat those issues on an individual basis, and certainly we are, when I say we mean in the Tobago House of Assembly, we are on the side of the citizens of Tobago on this one. So we're going to ensure that we do everything in our power to bring this to a close, and a close meaning that those who are not compensated will be compensated. But we need the assistance of those persons so that they can give us the information that is required for us to assist them in bringing this thing to a closure.
And of course, we do have a help desk, and the information is going to come up at the end of the program with all the contact details for the help desk. So we are encouraging persons to get in contact with the Tobago House of Assembly so that we can know who you are. Just before we go, I just want to go back to Mr. Drakes and Mr. Newton on in terms of the possibilities that the new terminal will provide where aircraft are concerned, the new types of aircraft that we can expect to see being facilitated in this new facility?
Well, the research has shown that there are two main drivers of the new aircraft for the future, the Airbus and Boeing. And certainly, we have looked at the range of possibilities. I can assure you that the design in terms of its compliance have taken into consideration multiple access ramps. So various types of aircraft, looking at the A320neo, the Boeing MAX 7300, 800 series, those two aircraft are potentially going to be the most used aircraft in the future. They have extended range versions as well. The possibilities for those things are going to be South America. In some cases, from Tobago, can reach Argentina. It can reach in parts of Ghana, as well as just maybe reach to Spain. So that's your range of where, you know, the possibilities of these aircraft can come, and most certainly Canada. So I am quite confident that the provisions have been made for that, and it's just a matter of the marketing and time, you know.
And Mr. Newton, this obviously is going to have an impact on the airlift coming to Tobago. I know in the past we would have had some challenges with certain airlines. How do you see this working for Tobago?
Well, we see it working very well. We, in fact, have been working together with the Secretary for Tourism, Transportation and Quality in Tobago House of Assembly in terms of developing our short-term, medium-term and long-term plans in terms of the airlift. And the development of the facilities at A.N.R. Robinson, the new facilities with this new terminal and associated work, is a critical part of that discussion, right? So it was a situation where we developed our plans based upon our understanding of the market, the metrics that we have developed, and also the plans for the future. So one of the points I want to stress is that this plan that we have put in place and what we're going to be executing is metric driven, and it's not pie in the sky.
Mm-hmm. So gentlemen, we have pretty much come to the end of our segment, but I'd just like to give you the opportunity to say some closing words, starting with you, Mr. Sandy.
I just want to assure the landowners who are going to be affected that they're going to be treated fairly, equitably, and we're going to try our best to ensure that the compensation comes to you as soon as possible in accordance with the regulations and so on. So we want to give you the assurance that the Tobago Assembly is seeking your best interest in this whole arrangement.
Mr. Pascal?
I'll go to those persons who do not have formal titles, just to say to them that we would treat with them as owners, and that they should at least enlist some form of professional advisors, because things we'll be looking for are things like evidence. Some of the things like a statutory declaration from somebody which says that you have been in possession of this land for all these years. Your house is on the land, really. So just a word to those persons without formal title, we are treated with you all.
Mr. Drake.
Well, I would just like to say I feel a bit excited and optimistic for the island of Tobago. Being in such a key position now to benefit from the new terminal development works, and of course we've not really touched on the ancillary works and road networks and all of that, but it's going to bring so much positive change for the island. Rest assured the work has been done to ensure that.
Mr. Newton.
As an airport operator, we're excited. We're excited about this development. We're excited about working with the Tobago House of Assembly to achieve this, and we believe this is for the benefit of the people of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago as a whole.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. We had quite a bit of information coming out today. We do have the new airport coming on stream very soon. We've heard a lot about the benefits that this will have, not just for Tobagonians and Tobago, but for the country on a whole as we move forward in our growth and our development. We want to just assure the stakeholders, as Mr. Sandy and Mr. Newton have done, that the process is going to be fair, that persons are going to be treated in a very humane fashion. And I know in one-on-one conversations, persons' greatest fear was whether they'll be compensated. And you've been given that assurance today that compensation will be taken care of by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Just want to let you know that we do have a help desk set up, and you can contact 635-2525, or you can send an email to newtobagoairport@gov.tt. So thank you for staying with us. Do have a good one.